listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
The biggest celebration in our industry is 24/7 Day. We're going to talk about what it is, how one company is taking advantage of it, and how you can join them. Welcome to Convenience Matters. My name is Jeff Lenard with NACS, and today we're joined by two guests that'll take us through what 24/7 Day is. First, we have Steph Sikorski. She's Vice President of Marketing and Executive Director of the NACS Foundation. Welcome, Steph. And Derek Gaskins. And Derek is a seasoned marketer with a couple different brands in the industry over the years. Most recently, he is Chief Marketing Officer at Yesway. So welcome, Derek.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
So, Steph, let's just start with talking about 24/7 Day. It is the annual day that we celebrate everything convenience on July 24th. Take us a little deeper than that.
We started 24/7 Day about 4 years ago now. It kicked off with Racetrack, Wawa, and Sheetz being the first three to join us. And if you fast forward now, we're entering our fourth year and more than 40 different brands participating. But truly what I wanted to talk about was really where it all started. And that was around pivoting, which we've done a lot in the convenience space. And when we took a look at what can we solve for and where are some of the things that we're doing really well in communities and the things maybe not so great that we've been in headlines for, one of that was around 24/7 operations and the idea that not too much good happens after dark or first thing in the morning. And a few of us, Jeff, you were part of that conversation with me, sat down and said, what if we changed that? What if instead of playing defense, we took an opportunity to say, think of all the great things that happen and thank goodness that we're available 24/7 and enter response relief, disaster relief with first responders. We've often heard of us and talked of us as being first supporters for first responders. And because we're open after dark or first thing in the morning, it's about the end of a shift for a local fireman or firewoman. It's the start of medical personnel's day. It's whether it's a wildfire or snowstorm, tornado, hurricane, you name it, our parking lots have often been kind of the setup for these first responders to come to. And it's also the place where folks go for those basics in terms of ATM, gas, food, water, knowing that they can get in and out really quickly. So that's where 24/7, an opportunity to pivot. And when you look at the calendar, we also saw, July 24th happens to be the busy summer season, also happens to be when we start to see a lot of stir-ups in weather patterns. And for us, it naturally felt like a day that we could attach to as an industry on a calendar and really rally behind the great work that we do in communities. And importantly, the great partnership that we have with first responders and others to be able to say, what if on this one day, even though a number of us, and we'll get to Derek here in a second, but a number of us celebrate that year round, but what if we just took one day to pause for a second and say thank you and do it in a way that was unified across our industry? How powerful could that be? And enter, 24/7 Day.
And even celebrating, some groups are celebrating truck drivers because if, think of all the disruptions we have in supply chain right now. Imagine how much worse they would be if truck drivers were only on the road for 8 hours a day instead of 24 hours a day and, moving things across the country, needing a place to fill up at 3 a.m. or you name it. But those Amazon packages don't arrive on your doorstep without a lot of behind the scenes. And Derek, when you look at 24/7, I know one of the things that I've heard from people in zoning hearings is like you go to a zoning hearing and usually the people who love convenience stores aren't in zoning hearings. They're out having fun. They tend to be younger people and things like that. But the people that show up at zoning hearings, usually the first thing you hear is, I don't want a store that's open 24 hours a day. Yeah. Nothing good. Exactly. All that stuff that Steph talked about. I go to bed at 10 o'clock and that's when everybody should go to bed. That's me talking, Steph. But talk about how Yesway looks at 24/7 operations and why 24/7 day felt like a good link with what you're doing.
Certainly. Jeff, I think you hit the heart of the matter. First of all, Jeff called me seasoned. For those who didn't catch that, he's calling me old, which may be true, but I have been around. And Jeff, I think you and Stephanie had the foresight that this industry prides itself on being open when no one else is. I mean, that is the very definition of the C. It's convenience. And we are selling time. We are selling to different shifts, as Stephanie talked about. Someone's first shift can be very different. Our core customers, they may be coming to us at 8 in the morning, but for them, that's night. They're just getting off and ready to go home to bed, and then vice versa. Someone coming at 8 or 10 o'clock at night. So we've always taken pride from the origins of the industry in being open when others aren't. I think to take it a step further, in times of crisis, and why this resonates with Yesway and I would say with the industry, is we fuel those that need it the most. When it's a hurricane, when it's any kind of natural disaster, we operate stores right now in New Mexico where we've had fires that have impacted dozens of our stores. And even though those stores have been really close to fires and have been the last thing to close, prior to that, we were the only source of water, the only source to refuel fire trucks and engines, a place to get a meal. If you look at COVID, just that era and what we have gone through, I think NACS advocating on behalf of the industry that we were essential retail was not to be taken lightly. And Jeff, to your point about fueling truckers and the supply chain, we had to be open and maintain the best semblance we could of 24/7. As the world closed around us, we were the only place open. And to your point about the NIMBYs at the zoning committees, hopefully, people started to realize that. I know in the case of Yesway, we attracted and retained a lot of new customers through that if their grocery store was closed or their restaurant was closed, they were able to come in, get a hot meal, find out that we had fill-in grocery and perishables and produce and fresh items for them to buy, or even staples, milk, bread, and eggs. Something that basic. And, for us, the 24/7, it's a commitment. It's a brand pillar. Even if, NACS did not galvanize this, we already give beverages to first responders, police, fire, EMS, in uniform on shifts. Every new store that I open, and we open stores at a very fast clip, I'm giving away $4,000 to $5,000 per store. And we start with police and fire and schools. Those being the three. So, I'm opening 50 plus stores a year. You're talking about several $100,000 that we are, writing checks and saying, be a part of this. And then when we have a grand opening celebration, it could be a concert in a parking lot or a ribbon cutting or any kind of ceremony. We have the fire trucks there for kids to climb on. We have the sheriff there to help us commission the new store. We'll bring in the township folks, and that's Yesway, but that's also other brands that I've been a part of. I have to give Rudders credit. I worked with Scott Hartman and that family and group for 6+ years, and Scott took it very seriously. I spent time with Couche-Tard and Exxon, and going all the way back 20+ years ago to Giant Eagle and Get-Go, same thing. Every supermarket, every convenience store that we open, we recognize to be a pillar in the community, you want to work closely with those that protect and serve the communities that we serve. So it is definitely crucial to us. And with Yesway, something that we are proud of and glad to be a part of what NACS has going on this year.
Derek, I know I called you seasoned, but if you're seasoned, people in zoning hearings, they're super seasoned. So we'll just leave it at that. Steph.
Yeah, I wanted to hit on a couple things that Derek said. And one of the first, I wrote this down because I thought it was super simple, but it's a really powerful statement. And I think a lot of folks that are listening or in the industry would say that they agree with that. And that was the statement, we fuel those who need it most. And that unpackaged says so much about 24/7 day, as well as 24/7 operations. And then for each of us that have brands in the community as well. And the idea that not only are first responders there when you need them, but also on the flip side, us as community pillars there when they need them, right? And the duality of that messaging, I know, Jeff, that's something you and I have talked about a lot for this year, and where we were going for operations as we expanded it. And the idea that hero looks different across communities. Derek touched on this for wildfires. For others, we mentioned some of our friends in South Dakota, and other might have been battling some snowstorms, and for others it's tornadoes or hurricanes. But the one thing that isn't different is how we show up time and time again in the communities and how we say thanks. And that's truly the power of the 24/7 day program, is that it's not about saying that everyone has to do the same level of thanks or the same offer, the same recognition across communities. It's about showing up and doing it in a way that's true to who you are as a brand, as a company, how your employees show up, but really important, like what it means to the community. And Jeff, I've heard you for years now talk about, we mentioned that we're convenience stores, but so often we should truly talk about ourselves as being community stores, because again, that's where we live, it's where we work, and it's how we show up in terms of wanting to make sure that we get back up and running again, to kind of bring it full circle to what Derek said with the fueling, but to make sure that we get back up and running again when we are hit with a crisis. And certainly over the last 4 years, when we first started this, and we talked about it being about celebrating and recognizing and saying, I see you, to first responders, that definition has absolutely evolved, because it was our employees on the front lines that allowed us to be deemed essential, by showing up every day. It was the truckers that you talked about, Jeff, that are loading, necessary fuel, but also, water and food supplies. Those from 911 professional operations, oftentimes the first on the other end of the phone for those phone calls, medical personnel for COVID. There's a lot of different definitions of what that is. And again, just a great way for us to say thank you.
And basically what both of you are describing is, how do we celebrate the heroes in our community? The heroes that protect us, that keep us going, that make it easy for all of us to do heroic things every now and then. And I know, Derek, the phrase heroes really resonates in how do you market and how do you tell stories. Is there anything that Yesway is doing related to 24/7 day that's worth mentioning in terms of an idea that maybe somebody else could execute?
Absolutely. First thing is, we are partnering with a supplier, with Keurig and Dr. Pepper, and looking to do a one for now, one for later type of program, where offering a free beverage in a dispensed cup, so hot or cold. And then Dr. Pepper will be offering from their core portfolio, so core bottled water, for only $1. So that's a beverage for now, and it's something for later. We're also doing some discounted meals on our Allsup's world famous burritos and chimichangas, which absolutely will get the police, fire, and first responders well fed and fueling your mind, body, and soul, and your belly too, right? I would actually say, Jeff, the most important thing, and while it was not directly related to NACS 24/7, it was similar, and it came out of COVID and this notion of heroes. We launched a program called Hospitality Heroes, where we wanted to actually recognize our team members that were on the front lines during COVID, that kept our stores open 365 and 24/7 as best they could. When I keep saying, when the whole world closed down, we were open. And, we operate in some states, South Dakota, Wyoming, Iowa, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, where we're urban, suburban, rural. And so we can be a food desert, a healthcare desert, a grocery desert, all of those things. And our people still were heroic. And, for me, I traveled throughout that and was motivated, because as scary as COVID was, getting on a plane when no one else was on there and having a mask, and staying in a hotel when you literally could not get a meal, no housekeeping, and it may be 2 people in the entire hotel, but my people were in the stores working. And so we launched this notion to actually get senior leadership in the stores and positively reinforce some of the behaviors that we wanted to see. And, right now it seems trite, but if you think back to 2020, when COVID was first really raging in spring and summer, there were culture wars. And in some of my markets, people were, I'm not wearing a mask. Customers, you can't tell me to wear a mask. Well, rather than try to get and have confrontation, we encouraged our folks to model the behaviors that we wanted from customers. We put signage up. We had mask mandates, but we also had our people cleaning high touch areas, wearing masks, wearing gloves, being visible. So customers felt safe or safer. Let's use that term.
Right.
They felt safer, that this place takes cleanliness to such a level that I feel more comfortable. And I love taking the C from convenience and saying C in community. I feel more comfortable shopping in my community where I know the people. And as irrational as that may seem, than going even 10 miles outside and going to a big Walmart, Target, Kroger, or what have you, where there may be 1,000 people who I don't know.
Yeah.
That served us well. And I think as an industry, you can talk to many leaders, and that's why we had the sales growth that we had. And it may have shifted within categories. So, going back to this notion, Jeff, of our heroes, that started a hospitality hero program for us. Each one ran for about 6 to 10 weeks. And we would go out in the stores with cash, literally, and catch team members. And if they were modeling what we thought were the behaviors that we desired, it was spot bonuses right on the spot. Put $100 bill in someone's hand, a $50 bill in someone's hand. And it wasn't the cash. It was the fact that they were recognized. I've literally, and I, joke about this, and my ops team calls me soft, but I've never cried as much as I cried when we would do store visits. And, people would just ask, may I hug you, and be moved to tears and say, I didn't think that anyone cared. I can't believe you're out here and doing these things. And I'm looking at it through the lens of, I can't believe our stores never closed, that we were able to keep open and, operate relatively safely in the face of a pandemic. And so the notion of first responders and heroes, I extended it, and Yesway took it a step further, and we wanted to recognize our people also, because they were heroes and they were doing things that I know I couldn't do. There's no way I could staff a store for 8, 10, 12 hours shift and deal with that many transactions and the uncertainty in those days when people didn't even know, was it airborne? Was it caught through? I mean, there were so many misconceptions out there. I don't even want to speak about it, but it was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, Derek, you hit on not only the idea of heroes, but the other phrase you used was cares. And I think when we're looking at $5 gas, $6 gas, wherever it is, wherever you are in the country, I mean, people are not, they're finding a lot of things that are challenging them right now. And Steph, the whole notion of the foundation is convenience cares. So talk a little bit about the caring element that goes into telling the story about 24/7 day. And by the way, before we go too further, it's free. You don't have to commit to doing more than just saying, hey, you want to participate, and we're not looking for your money, we're looking for your participation.
Well, and at its core, I think that's what we're all talking about, right? Is about something that is as small as saying, I see you and thank you for what you do. Like, it's those small moments of gratitude, but it can't just be that alone. It has to be where it's genuine. And I think, Derek, you just told us some amazing stories as you walked us back through there, but lined through all of it, that common thread was that gesture, however, small or big that it was. It could have been something as simple as a hug, costs nothing, right? Or the small in the moment bonus, which to some folks may, not be enough, maybe more than enough, but it's the fact that you did it on the spot, recognizing there in the moment, without having to wait for some large platform or stage. And it's those small things that I like to say turn out to be the really big things, right? They're the moments that matter because, importantly, I think it's that there was the recognition on the spot, and you truly saw the person as an individual in that moment, versus waiting to make it a larger production. But for 24/7 day, I think across all groups, it's what we've talked about in terms of participation. It's about the flexibility to make sure that it's authentic and true to your brand and your community and what feels right for that piece. And in some cases, it might be a water, as Derek described, and opportunities to partner that way. In some cases, it might be a cup of coffee. It might be a sandwich. It could be a check that's written from a donation program to a local, charitable group that's doing first response work. For each group, it's a little bit different. And the role of the foundation is really to help recognize and celebrate that at the national level, while giving the resources to all of these groups at the local level to be able to tell their story. And that's how we got to really celebrating what can we do across convenience, because I will challenge you to find an industry that bands together in the way that we're doing it through this one program. And it's just one program. There are so many stories out there that reiterate what we're talking about in terms of convenience cares. It just happens to be that we're talking about response relief and disaster relief for this one. But our industry shows up daily. And Jeff, I know you and I have talked about this. If we could capture the number of stories and touch points and hear the stories that, Derek and others have talked about here, because this is just one of thousands of stories that we hear about what we're doing. And the foundation's role is truly to be that megaphone and that mouthpiece to celebrate and bring attention to the daily interactions, hourly interactions, and in some cases, minute by minute. And here we are right back talking at 24/7 again, but all the interactions that we have and the impact that we have not only on our own employees, but the communities.
Yeah, and it is all about stories. And I think Derek, when he was talking about the supplier partnership, just raised something else I was thinking about. We talk about community, and our stores are all part of communities. The industry is one big community too.
Yes.
So when you get 30,000 plus stores all committed to the same messaging and with supplier partners joining them, that's pretty powerful. I mean, you look at the number of retail outlets that could do something like that. It's very few when you add up all the drugstores, dollar stores, something like that. We're approaching that upper limit just with 24/7 day. So Steph, what are steps for somebody who has heard this and says, I want in?
Well, that's the first step, right? And then getting in touch with ourselves over here at NACS Foundation. The website is 247day.org or 247day.org. That's the easiest spot to go to. And in terms of getting in touch with us and walking through, it's really nothing more than 20 or 30 minutes with us. Love to hear the stories of what's already working in the community, what you already might be doing. In some cases, it may be the very first step or program that you're putting in place. But like I said earlier, in terms of the customization, the flexibility, the fact that there's at entry, zero cost to anyone to participate. It's about us coming together and doing great things on a larger scale. It's that first conversation. From there, we'll develop a customized toolkit, which gives retailers everything that they need, from press releases to public service announcements to social media graphics. Again, it's attempting to make it as easy as possible to participate, but having that unified front from an industry standpoint so folks know who's delivering it, and that we're all band together to say thank you.
So community, heroes, all kinds of awesome things. I think that we can really tell stories, and that's really what marketing is. Now, before we go, yes, that's the trivia music. And what we try to do is we try to have a trivia question that somewhat relates to the topic at hand. That's not the case today. Normally, like I said, it would be something about heroes. I think I burned one of our hero questions a couple weeks ago. So instead, it's movie trivia.
Oh, this is all you, Derek.
Uh-oh.
Summer blockbuster season. There was a movie about our industry that had the promotional tagline, "Just because they serve you doesn't mean they like you. What movie was that? I'll give you the secondary line was a very funny look at over-the-counter culture. And you are correct.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, we'll have to send you to the premiere of Clerks 3 that is apparently coming out this summer with Kevin Smith. It is the 1994 movie. Kevin Smith calls the place where most of the movie was filmed. The movie was filmed at this place called Quick Stop Groceries in Leonardo, New Jersey. And Kevin Smith calls it the world's most famous convenience store. I would beg to differ. But yes, it's still open if you want to go there. I think they have a pretty extensive gift shop. So, awesome. Derek, if you go there, send me the tab. You got a T-shirt on us for answering the trivia.
I'm going to take you up on that.
So thank you both, Steph and Derek, for joining us today. Life is stories, and you guys as marketers, it's just connecting and telling those stories. So love to have you both on to continue to tell those stories and better our industry. So thank you both for joining us today. And thank you all for listening to Convenience Matters.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.